Good morning on this really cold, wintry day. Today I'd like to talk to you about something that I've been waiting for quite a while. Again, it is model related, and just like one of my previous videos, I bring you Legion Imperialis, which is a playable version of the Horus heresy game, and just from that same time period in that Horus heresy video. This is a rulebook, and this gives you everything that you need to start playing the game. The book is quite nice. It shows you details such as scenes of people playing said game. As you can see, it's quite expansive. However, the scale is the thing in this particular game, which I'll present to you briefly, where the models are very small. They don't take up much space at all, and you get a small selection of models in this box. Now, I don't know how much it is in dollars, but it was in GDP 120. However, I got it from a discount retailer for 102, so that is definitely something worth considering. This gives you a full background of everything that you need to play the game, and everything to expand upon said game, as they already have a vast range of models that you can use, and details replay battles from this period in time. With this, you obviously get this to put these things together, and I've been waiting for this size for years, because they stopped doing a previous system of this about 19 years ago or so, give or take. But over that said time period, I've been waiting a long time for it, and it's been worth the wait. These are tricky. I'm not even going to pretend. I mean, just for scale, on this sprue is roughly about 60 odd miniatures, give or take. Some of these are multi-part. Now, the easiest thing, if this camera can focus, is the Legionnaires, which are these. These are pretty easy to sort out and etc. But please be wary that these take great care and attention. Also, due to their size, probably not something for a beginner. It's something probably quite on the tricky side. I've already sprayed this purple, as I've decided to do the Emperor's Children Legion. But also, not only do you get these in there, you also get a secondary force known as the Imperial Army, which you could use as against such forces or for the forces. It just gives you a bit of an organisation. Some of this you get in the box, some of it is expansions. Pricing point wise, even with discount retailers, it's not that cheap. Sort of be realistic, it isn't cheap at all. The biggest problem with this particular manufacturer is that over the last 10 years they've had price hikes almost every single year, and they use excuses such as fuel and stuff, and the cost of making plastic. However, the contents in all their boxes have reduced, so it doesn't really reflect why the price has to rise. I understand business and I understand such things. This is something you do not get into lightly. Some people have got into one of these hobbies and got themselves into serious debt, because you can't just come into the hobby. Well, during COVID, a lot of people came to the hobby. Problem is the price point and access is very difficult, and ever since then they've been losing the player base because the amount of models and things they bring out is just too much. I don't actually get how such a system as the current one they've got is sustainable, because it isn't really, especially if you're losing customers and you've lost a percentage. They have 3 main games. These are Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and the main bigger game, the Horus Heresy, which all use 28mm models. The models are pretty good quality. Some of them are a bit of a pain to put together because they're using computer aided design or CAD. The other problem is it's just getting paint and supplies for these, and you might necessarily need tools. Now, I would never suggest to buy the tools from Games Workshop, because there are other retailers that do just as good plastic snips as Games Workshop does. I'm not bashing Games Workshop because they're a business and I can understand their model. The main thing I would say is, if you were to get a starter box, focus on the starter box and get it done before you buy more, because the easy issue with such things is you can buy tons of models, but then you've got to put them together, assemble them, paint them and use them and then store them. Just last year I sold probably about, I would guess, about 33% of my stuff that I knew I'd never get round to doing it. I mean, the good thing is it went to a good home, so I can never bash that. But the truth of this hobby, unfortunately, is it is excessively expensive. If you want to get an army going, this might be a bit of a better idea. However, you still need the outset of costs to cover the system. I, over many years, have gathered X amount of paint. At one point I had all the paints, but now there's so many that it's very difficult to keep up with. Also, I've not had any of them. Well, I've got 1 or 2, but they have a contrast paint system now, which makes it a bit easier to use one coat and then build upon that coat if you want to, and make the models ready to use. The thing is, I've been on and off with this hobby for a good 30 years, so I now know and understand. Once upon a time you could collect everything because it was expensive, but it wasn't a price point where it was insane. Now the biggest problem with it now is it's just very, very dear to get into. Discount retailers are a good thing, but even with discount retailers it has become a very expensive hobby. So before, they normally have their price rises in March, and I do apologise for that sound. Got new neighbours upstairs and they are remodelling their apartment, so I do apologise for that weird random sound. All in all, if you are interested, I would research before you spend any money. Research. They've got a website for this, which is on the main Warhammer website. I may put that into the description. This is not really, I mean, there's 2 big things. There's playing it for fun and there's playing it for tournaments. Now, tournaments isn't really my thing, but some people do play tournaments and do very well at tournaments because they're good players for all their different game systems. They have offshoots of the 3 main games. They have dozens. Also you have something called Blood Bowl, which is like fantasy football on a pitch, and then you buy a team and then add to that team, but the team doesn't get beyond a certain size. You have Necromunda, which is gang warfare, where you have a gang and you add to that gang and give additions to the gang. You have so many different types of game systems, and some of them are really good. And I mean, the what used to be for me was the lore. The big problem with the lore is they've retconned it a lot. The Horus heresy 30 years ago didn't have much to it. It's turned into a monster because now you have their division called the Black Library, which has brought out about 60 odd books, I believe, for the series. I got to about 20 odd and then just got burnt out because there's just too many. Some of them are brilliant, like the first 3 books in the Horus heresy are brilliant. This is a time period where they'd done a great crusade to reunite all of humanity, because humanity had been split up for many years across the entire galaxy. But some of them have been left for so long that they've become all cultures on their own. And there was a massive crusade to go throughout, trying to reunite all the humans under the singular guy called the Emperor, who has been under many other names and potentially immortal. It's all given history, but if you liked Epic, because Epic is what brought me into this game, was just the idea where you could have hundreds of troops and then massive war machines, massive tanks, all that kind of stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, definitely give it a go, but I would suggest before you get into it, as a word of caution, think about what you're doing. I mean, the good thing is these days, now you've got a lot more of this sort of stuff on the PC and various consoles, but they're still not quite there yet. Things like Battlefleet Gothic, for example, and certain games like Space Hulk and all that kind of stuff. Good way into it. Space Hulk is another famous system that they have. I'm not quite sure if there's going to be a new edition. I mean, Space Hulk is even older. I think it's about 35 years old now, so it's getting on a little bit. Anyway, I digress. If you like this sort of thing, definitely give it a go. I'll just give you another quick sort of what you're getting into if you do get into this particular one. The people in the stalls are just doing their job. The only problem is I would only go into the store if I needed something and just stick with that said thing. Just like in any business, they are stuck to in Warhammer stores to upsell, because they have targets to reach, just like any other shop does. So respect the staff because they're just doing their job, but just be careful not to buy too much, because just like any business, they want you to buy what they sell. And the painting, I mean, they do painting classes, they do game groups, and they do lots of things to engage with the hobby. So this is not an attack on any of the staff in any way at all, because the staff who have been there for many years in some of these stalls have quite a tough job with corporate. Who doesn't with corporate? Anyway, this is 46 signing off. Please like and subscribe. Please also comment, and please also like my videos. Thank you very much for your time. This is 40.